Everything that we thought we knew about this new format, take it, throw it in the trash. I'm about to make you super excited to play this game. Don't make 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash this so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. Shout out to Kong's Cards here. You guys know we have discount code MCO40 working with them over the weekend here. Actually, yesterday, they hosted an 80-man tournament for a new format. We have everything. We have top 16 breakdown. We have all the deck list. Everything going to be in this video. So top 16 here. We have 3 Sprite decks. Okay, that's not horrible. We had 2 Kashtira decks grinding through Top Cut as well. We had 2 Dragon Link, 2 Tier Elements. Actually, that was by far one of the craziest things I thought I'd seen here. We had Minkanko in here, and I will tell you, the Adventures of Minkanko are filmed and they are coming. All right, I'm super excited to show you how that deck has done here. We also have Rika, Branded, Sword Soul, Flaunderies, Sky Striker, and Purely. You know, that's a amazing top 16. Like, actually mind-boggling here. Let me tell you what's going to make things way more interesting. Take this flowchart. Let's make it even more exciting. Top 8 here. We had Dragon Link. Still somehow continues to do a fantastic job out here in the format. I actually think that's by far one of the decks that just continues to hold on. 1 Tier Elements deck creeped on in to your top 8. That's even more exciting here. Minkanko still holding on here. So you're telling me the Minkanko in tier 2 decks that I don't think a lot of people really considered able to compete both did anything. I think YCS Japan showed people about Minkanko. We also had 1 Rika deck in here as well, so plants still carrying on here. And then we had Kashtira, Branded, Sword Soul, and we actually had Evil Twin Sprite here. That's a lot of sprites that we ended up losing from the transition of top 16 here to top 8, and to see that there are 8 different decks present for this top cut is mind-bogglingly crazy to me. Well, all good things must come to an end. Top 4. Where did all the fun stuff go? Oh boy. Hi Kashtira. Hi Tier Elements. Okay, so the 2 strongest former competitors are here. Minkanko found its way into top 4. Damage Reflection deck. If you have no idea how to play against that deck, you are going to find yourself in an absolute bad position. And then we have Sword Soul across the table from Kashtira. Your actual semifinals are actually pictured here. It's Minkanko versus Tier Elements, and then Kashtira versus the power of Sword Soul. And your grand finals here was none other than, you guessed it, Kashtira versus Tier Elements. The fact that you had both of these very strong contenders, both former top metagame contenders here, showing back up out here on the field, really does prove that everything that we knew for this format actually just got thrown out the window. Let's pass on over to top 16 deck list. And things off here in top 16, you might actually recognize this in a little while. This is the top 16 version of Tier Elements. You're playing all the standard stuff in this. One thing that might catch you off guard here is Bahamut Shark into the Totally Awesome. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, you should actually be pretty intrigued by the fact that this deck is now taking advantage of this. Also, all the bits of moving data in this deck really makes this deck quite amazing to actually watch. Next up here we have Sprite Purely. Yeah, that's right. We've gone ahead and we've incorporated the Sprite package. You know, this deck needed something else to make it able to play. Your Sprite package gives you the ability to do that. All right, and you know, you can kind of cover your bases in places you might normally not been able to. Also, I mean, you're locked into rank 2 under the big guy here, and we also get to decide Eradicate or Unfun Epidemic Virus against the opponent, so free blowout cards. Next up here is Kashtira. Oh boy, you know, actually one of the most interesting things I think about this is the fact that we are playing Lance, but I mean, this is strictly a countermeasure against losing to random infinite impermanence, though Kaijus are able to kind of out this and do the same thing. And we are bringing the Nightmare Corruptor Ibli package to the table. Nobody is playing any out to this right now, except for the one strange guy that plays the Nightmare Phoenix in order to actually toggle into this with the second monster. Next up here is our Sky Striker deck, Linkage Turbo. We are actually playing triple thrust here, the ability to, you know, toggle into the talents, and all the standard win the game shenanigans that this deck is now very known for. It's very good. You do see the engages here, and I mean, to be honest with you, the full value out of this deck, still a very strong contender, but with Bysteals running around, you're losing a lot of potential value that these cards can really give you at this stage. Next up here, we have Sprite Tri-Brigade. Okay, so this is actually kind of cool. So you're going to set up the interruption through the revolt during the opponent's turn. That way you can Shrug interrupt them. This is by far one of the, I guess, safest plays that you can do with Tri-Brigade. Depending on how your field sets up, you are seeing Droll and Lockbird here actually being a minor inconvenience. Strong hand traps across the board. And then we have the anti-spell of the Unfun down here, actually kind of showcasing some more interesting stuff. Next up here, we have our other Sprite deck. Okay, well, I mean, how many Sprite variations can you kind of bring to the table here? Of course, generating as much advantage as you can under the fountain is the name of the game for this deck. And then, of course, evenly matched so that, you know, your opponent gets equalized, you can play the game. And then you do see the Nightmare Corruptor Ibly down here making another guest appearance. That's now 2 decks in this top cut that was looking at Nightmare Corruptor Ibly and going, you know, maybe this is kind of good right now. Next up here, we have our Dragon Link deck. Wow, this is a callback. We're doing Tidying with Chamber. That's actually kind of interesting to see. And then, of course, heavy Bysteel package. You're able to kind of control, sit up, and do what you're going to do here. We are citing the skill drains down here as well, along with the big balls. So, to be honest with you, I like what we're seeing here. You have a lot of your bases covered, and you're able to essentially answer anything that you could want to see, and it might be a problem as well. And then our last top 16 deck list here is actually Flaunder. I see we are playing Thrust and Talents here. We are side decking, or main decking triple evenly here as well. We're main decking 1 Featherstorm, citing the additionals. There's the big ol' Angry Bird. Yeah, that card does ruin games for sure. And then we have the Necro Valleys down here as well for deterrence. Stolas was pretty aware of what they were going to run into in terms of matchups here. So that wraps up your top 16 here. As we head on into top 8 here, we have, Evil Twin Good Stuff. Yes. Let me tell you, watching this deck do what it does is absolutely amazing. Fountains for toggle ability, and the sauce that this deck actually brought to the table is the fact that they could drop Vanity's Fiend. Actually, I watched Sword Soul versus this, and the only reason why they outed this was, you know, they actually had the out to the Vanity's Fiend, or else this deck might have actually rounded things out and moved on to the top cut. Next up here, we have our Branded Duelist, 50 cards, main decking evenly matched. We are actually side decking the Albion here as well. So if you really need to have access to this, you just go ahead and side it in with the Gimmick Puppet package. You're able to kind of, you know, cut out some of the bricks that this deck honestly doesn't want to see a lot of. I will tell you, the more you play this deck and you see more and more of these bricks, the harder it really is to play it. Next up here, we have our Rika Sun Avalon deck. So we are playing, you haven't seen how good this card is in this deck yet. Especially, you know, the one of Droll, the one of Valor here, the Nibiru's. This deck is super optimized to be playing for the ratios it is. Unfortunately, with the way that this deck relies so much on its extra deck to burn through and set up combo, if you actually are able to break its board, it doesn't have much of a recoverability line of play. And that's like the strongest downside to playing this deck, unfortunately. And then we have, Dragon Link. Yes, my favorite here. We are at 46 cards this time. You see the package for this. I would say that this is a little bit more Dragon Link-esque, because you are seeing, you know, the value extension for this. You are seeing what most people do down here for time. And then, of course, Skill Drain. I love the fact that this deck just got the chance to, you know, hurdle up with a lot of the strong assets that made a lot of other decks unfun. Top 4. We have our Minkonko deck. So, yep, you do see the fact that Damage Reflection Turbo is going to be the name of the game here. We are using Aqua Dolphin. I'll tell you, for a lot of the games I did watch of this card was insane. So many people didn't actually have the ability to out the Aqua Dolphin, and it was actually pretty insane just how devastating this card is to actually resolve. but that is definitely the experience for this. Next up here, we have our Sword Soul list. We're actually citing Epsilon down here. 41 cards, very, very incredibly standard. You'll also see that we do have anti-spell fragrances in here. We do cite 1 Dark World no more. This build is pretty teched out for a lot of what you really could see out here. And I think that's one of the more interesting things about this deck overall is, you know, the bases that you're getting covered with this. Second place was Kashtira here. One of the more interesting tech choices this deck was bringing to the table here is we have Summon Limit here to actually try to slow down the opponent so that we can, you know, play the game at our own pace, all right? Kashtira is not exactly the craziest push it to the metal, to the floor deck now, especially, you know, when you only have 1 Arise Heart here, and, you know, if your big boss monster that you've invested everything into here, you know, falls apart, well, that's it. And winning the event here was, you might recognize this list. This is essentially the top 16 list that we started these deck lists with here. Both duelists ended up bringing this to the table here, and you did get the chance to see that, yeah, 2 versions of the same deck ended up getting top 16 and then bringing it on home for first place here. So overall, very, very good event. Thanks to Kong's Cards for getting the chance to showcase it. I don't really have much else to say about this deck. It's very, very, very awesome to see. So remember, check out Kong's Cards, use discount code MCO40, and I will see your beautiful faces back here later today with some more cool ass content. Peace out, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.